Welcome to Excel 3 and Microsoft Office 2010 by Megan Reese. In this assignment, we're going to learn several things: orientation, AutoSum, percentages, sorting, average, and shrinking text. So to start out, I just want to show you a few things. The first thing is AutoSum, which is really awesome, where you have a list of numbers and you can highlight those numbers. And instead of having to do it the long way where you're like equals this plus this plus this, you don't have to do that. You can do AutoSum. So you highlight all of them, go up here to AutoSum and click. And now you want to make sure, let's say I want to do this all the way across. If I drag this across using my autofill, the problem with that is now I've just basically autofilled all the numbers. So you want to re-highlight before you drag across. That's something that could potentially be a problem for you in lesson 3. So make sure you're aware how to do that. Another review is averaging, where you highlight the information and pull down the arrow and choose average. Make sure if you are averaging something that, like if I want the average to show here, I would have to type it the long way, equals average, open parenthesis, and highlight. And the reason why is I don't want to include my total as part of my average. If I did, it would totally throw the numbers off. So now I have this average of 42.25, and maybe I want to go ahead and drag that across. So one problem I have is that I've got all of these decimals, and again, I've showed you this before, but let's review it for assignment 3. I don't need 66.08333. I just want the 66, or maybe I just want 66.8, depending on what the number's for. So I'm going to highlight this, right-click, and go to Format Cells, and go to Number, which is what should come up immediately. Click on the word number and change your decimal places. If I keep it at 2, that will still change it so that there's only 2 decimal places. Maybe I want it to be, I think in assignment 2 you actually change it to a 0 so that you just have that single number. Another thing we're going to learn how to do is shrinking the text. So I just changed this a little bit, but you can see that my names are getting cut off, and I could widen the column by putting my cursor between the A and the B and double clicking. But sometimes that's not an option. Sometimes you're trying to get everything to fit on one page and you just can't make it any wider. So I am going to right-click, go to Format Cells, and go to Alignment, and click on Shrink to Fit. And now it will shrink it so that everything is still visible as far as it has to shrink it in order for it to fit within those lines. If I make it a little bit bigger, it will get a little bit bigger until it doesn't show up at all anymore. The next thing I want to show you is a simple formula. Okay, make sure you understand the difference between a formula and a function. A function is when you do something like where I highlight all of these and I say AutoSum. If you click on that, you can see the function right there, SUM. There are a lot of functions in Excel, hundreds of functions. Average, min, max, there's tons of them. A formula is something more like equals this plus that. Okay, that's very simple, but a formula is where you're just doing a simple math problem. Okay, they can be quite extended. So we're going to do a formula. So we're not going to use any function that's preset, but we're going to figure out a percentage. So let's say it's worth 250 points and I got 210. So I want to know what percentage do I get. So you want to start with equals because it's a math problem. Click on your lower number. Me personally, this is something that's always been hard for me to remember is which one goes first. I don't know why, I'm just dumb that way, but equals, click on the 210, the small number, divided by, and then the amount it's out of, the 250. So I know that if I get 210 out of 250, I get 84. That should be percentage, so I'm going to click on the percent button and turn that into a percent. Now, when I drag this down, you'll notice it really didn't do what I wanted it to do. Okay, I'm going to delete that. Okay. When I dragged it down 102, 194, something's wrong here because I know that 209 out of 250 is not 194%. So why is this incorrect? Let me show you why. It's D6 divided by D5. When I dragged it down, it copied that same pattern. This divided by this cell divided by or actually it's this cell divided by this cell. So when I click on this one, it does the same thing. This cell divided by this cell, and it keeps following that same pattern all the way down. Really, I want D5 to stay solid. I don't want that one to change. I want to know what this is divided by this, this by this, this by this, this by this. So every time the 250 needs to stay the same. It needs to be an absolute value. In order to fix that, I'm going to go to D5 in my first one, click on the D5, and I just press the F4 function key, or I can type in the dollar signs manually. When I do that and I press enter, it looks exactly the same, but when I drag it down, it fixes it. So as you can see in the functions here, or the formula bar, it's the same. It keeps that D5 all the way through it. Another reminder for this page is when you want to change your font size. As I've taught this to my classes, I have a lot of students that can't get the assignment to fit on the page. And that's because I tell them to say change the font size to 8. So they go like this, and they go over here, and they change it to an 8. And if you look at it, the font changed, but the text or the cells are exactly the same size. So in this assignment, when it tells you to change the font size, make sure you highlight the actual rows. Then when you click on it, it will change the row size as well. If you don't do that, it's not going to end up fitting on the page. Another thing I want to talk about is how to sort. So I want these names sorted. I'm going to highlight them all like this. And you got to make sure you include your grades with it, because if you don't, the names will change and the grades won't, and then the grades aren't correct. So I'm going to highlight across like this and go to data. And because I'm only highlighting, I'm only going to sort by one information, just last name. You can, in Excel, you can sort by last name and then by something else or highest score. You can highlight by different things. But in this case, we only have one parameter. So I'm going to highlight all of this, go to A through Z. If you're doing more than one, you'd go in here and do different levels. But because we're only doing one, we do A through Z. And now it's sorted. This lesson also has a lot of review things I want to make sure that you know how to do. You want to make sure you know how to insert a row. So you click on the row and insert. And also if you click on more than one row, like I have 2 here, if I highlight that and insert it, it will give me 2 rows. Okay, so that's something you need to know. Make sure you know how to merge and center, change font size, and change font color. That should pretty much cover you for assignment 3. I hope that this has been a clear explanation, and good luck.